So, hello everybody, my name is Casey Giller and this is Jackie Lauder. We're gonna both work on your course this semester, co-teach. We've done it quite often in the past, and having two different points of view on some of the subjects we're going to be talking about, I think is a real advantage for you to have. It's also a male-female thing, and you'll have one older adult and one teenager. So you get the whole gamut of ideas. Anyway, I've been here 12 years. I created this course, actually online version of it, when I first got here. And prior to that, I was in the private sector. I came back to school early 60s, in my early 60s. Got a couple degrees. They liked my act, and I've been here ever since. Best thing I've ever done. Very cool background there, William. This is a course about the aging process, and I'm going to kind of take you on a tour of the course and where things are, and then Jackie's going to come in and talk a little bit more about content and what we're really here for. And so let's start. Hopefully you can all see the home of the course. Is that correct? Just shake your head. Good. And if you don't, if you have a camera, you're certainly welcome to turn it on. We'd like to see who we're talking to. If you don't have a camera, then I understand it. Okay, great. So this is our homepage. This is us. This is not me now. This is a former version of myself about 30 years ago. I used the picture because it was a good friend of mine who took it, and that was the year he had won a Pulitzer for photography, so I figured someday I'd have an opportunity to brag about that, and well, here we are. Jackie and my contact information is here. We're both going to be doing online office hours. I'm on Wednesdays, Jackie's on Monday, and if you can't make either of those, you're certainly welcome to send us an email, and we'll set up another time and set up a session to talk it over, whatever you need to talk about. Although hopefully we can answer most of your questions today, and as we go on, we probably email is the best way to contact us, although I'm going to give you another way to ask a question in a few minutes. And we're pretty responsive, especially in this COVID environment that we're living with, and people have all kinds of possible issues, and we recognize that and want to accommodate anybody as best we can with the tools that we've been given. So that's our contact information, and on the home page, you can talk to somebody at Beachboard Help if you need it. Just click I'm a student, and somebody will come on depending on how busy they are if you have a question about Beachboard. So that's that. And then there's a calendar tool in here that'll tell you what's coming up. Both of us will put in things from time to time that may be of interest to you in terms of the aging process. So this is a graphic, and you can kind of open it up and see what kinds of things you can do to extend your life, and also the kinds of things you could be doing that taking it the other way. And it's never going to be tested, so it's for your own benefit. Most of this course is really that way. So I think I want to start off, we'll go into the content area and kind of list all of the resources for the course. So we have a day one digital access book. Anybody have any problems getting the book? No, great. All right, I'm happy to hear that. Um, if you do, let me know. I've been working with the publisher to make sure that this is accessible. We have negotiated the price on this book down probably as low as they want to go. You can find the same book on Amazon for about 20 bucks more, and an older version of the book, which is very different than the book we're using now. So I don't recommend you get that one because nothing will match up. There's an extra 100 pages to read, and it's 2 years older than what we've got. Syllabus and course schedule. So let's look at the course schedule first. I'm going to download this guy. I guess I don't have to. So this is kind of, we set this up on a weekly basis. There's no modules or any of that, just although it says modules here. But we actually go by the week. And so when it's highlighted like this is the time that we'll have a Zoom session. So we're going to probably meet you guys around 5-6 times over the course of the semester. And I'll tell you how that got to be and how it's going to show up. So the white areas here are weeks that we're not going to be meeting. Week 4, we'll see you again, and like that. So that's the basic thing. This gives you kind of an outline of when things are due, and also another link to some of the resources that we provided. So that's the course schedule, and then the syllabus. I will download that because it takes a while. And open it up. Okay, so again, our information, how to find us, reach us, and the links to our office hour Zoom sessions. I want to change my video thing here because I'm looking off to the side and I don't know if I really want to do that. Okay, so because it looks like I'm being impolite to you by looking elsewhere. Anyway, so these are the course goals and outlines. I think you should take a good look at the syllabus. It's got quite a few things in here. One of the important things is here, it's how you're going to get a grade in this course. We use 1,000 points because I used to use 100 points, but what happens is there's so many shades of gray between a 90 and an 80. So we use 1,000 points, and you'll see that 55% of this is going to come from these discussion boards. So what's happened in the past is this course has been kind of I think you can describe it as a long river full of information, but 3 inches deep. So we covered a lot of material and didn't dive in too deeply into some of the topics. But over the years, we've gotten pretty good feedback from our students about what they find to be important. So as a result of that, we decided to, we changed the book, and the textbook itself lends itself to taking 2 or 3 chapters, and they're all related to each other in one way or another, and have you do a reflection and talk about the 3 topics as they relate to each other and to you. And so it's a bigger assignment, but not as often. So we used to do it every week. You'd have to write something, and we've kind of gotten away from that. The other thing we've gotten away from in this course is you'll be happy to know there are no exams, except for one, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but it doesn't count for anything. The big paper in this course is the life review proposal, and that kind of is going to we're going to ask you to find some older adult to interview, and you're going to create a plan for that, what kind of questions you want to know about that person. Oftentimes, our students will find a grandparent, ask him or her to do the interview, and if you tee it up with that grandparent to say something like, I have a really important assignment at school, and I wonder if you could help me out with it, you will be absolutely flabbergasted how much you're going to find out about that grandparent, especially if you can get them out of the room, away from other people, in a nice quiet place. And if you're going to interview grandma, do not have grandpa there, because they haven't seen life exactly the same, even though they've been together 50 years. So you don't want to get in the middle of that. So just get grandma and have a cup of tea, or if it's a Zoom session, I don't know. Everybody's got a different living arrangement. So that's so we're going to ask you to do a proposal on how you're going to plan this out, and then the actual paper comes at the end of the semester. Participation, it's really kind of a misnomer, but we'll get into those kinds of assignments. So the weeks that we don't meet, we're going to ask you to do some graphic work, actually, to reflect what you're seeing and learning in class. And then finally, there's a final project which is called a Pechakucha. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that, so I'll explain it to you a little bit. It's a couple of people about 15, 20 years ago in Japan were very weary of what's known as death by PowerPoint, where somebody puts up a slide on the screen, it's got 50 words on it, they read every word to you, even though you're perfectly capable of reading the words. And then after about 5-10 minutes of that, people's eyes glaze over and they're gone. And so these people in Japan, they weren't Japanese actually, decided to reformat the way PowerPoints worked. And we'll get into that, but it makes it much more user-friendly for the people who have to go through the PowerPoint, and also the people receiving it. So we'll talk about that final project as well. And this is all at the end of the semester. Grading is the same, A, B, C, D. Plagiarism, there's a pretty good, some information here. Attendance, the sessions that we meet, we'd really like you to be here, because we're going to ask you to do some work together in smaller groups. So that's an important piece of the course, since we don't get to see you very often. Netiquette, you guys probably know more about it than I do, but something like all caps is the equivalent of yelling at someone. So if we see anything that's kind of out of line like that, we'll step in. So our philosophy here is that we'd like to create a kind of a community of learning, and that includes Jackie and I, because there's not been a semester or a class that I've taught that I haven't walked away learning something from the students. And all of my research has been done on lifelong learning, so it fits exactly to what I found in the research. Just the usual stuff, and then there's some information about the reflections that you can take a look at when you get an opportunity to do that. So we'll close that guy up, and we'll close that guy up. So those are those two. Go back to table of contents. So we're going to ask you to learn a couple different types of technology. One is, I talked about the Pechakucha, and the other is infographic. So these are not new technologies to you. They're both actually related directly to PowerPoint, and just different uses of PowerPoint. So, and I'll show you an example of an infographic. I really need to get better ones. But so what happens is that after you've read, let's say, chapter 2, and what we're going to ask you to do is to kind of think about chapter 2, what you learned in there, and the 3 takeaways that you might have had from that chapter. And instead of writing about what you learned, we're going to ask you to create a a graphic representation of what you learned. So I'm going to open up one of these samples to show you a little bit about what we're talking about. So I can't remember which ones they. All right, so here's one. And let me see, are you able to see that on the screen? Thank you, Haley. So this one is obviously about food and nutrition and aging. This was done by a nutrition major, so lots of stuff here. It's almost too much. There's too much. It's too busy. There's too much information to deal with. And I'm not really sure, there's a bunch of messages, but I'm not really sure what the student was able to take away from this presentation. So we're going to close that guy up, but I'm going to try one of these genetically modified food. We'll open that up. And so here is a much simpler graphic about what this student wanted to talk about and what was related. And what we asked you guys to do is to create a graphic like this and then create a second slide and a sentence or two, just tell us what we're looking at. Describe what you've depicted as an image. If you want to go back and write 2 or 3 paragraphs about this, whatever these topics are, that's an option that I'll keep open for you. But I think you'll find that this is a much more creative process, and it helps you to define what you want to talk about. So any questions about the infographics? All right, cool. So here's the deal. I've got a number of resources in the course in this area and here about infographics. You can take a look at all of those, and if you have any questions at all about how to do it, let me know. You basically open up a PowerPoint. I know some of the instructions say to change the size of the slides. I wouldn't worry about that. I'd leave the slides, whatever it comes up. Typically it can be it's usually in a landscape format, but you can also do a portrait format if you want. Doesn't matter, or Jackie. So go through these resources, and as I say, if you have any questions, then we'll go from there. And we'll get to PechaKucha later. It's one of the last things you do. Somewhere in the middle of the semester, we're going to ask you to pick a topic to create your PechaKucha about. And basically, it's PechaKucha is limited to 20 slides, and each slide is on the screen automatically for 20 seconds. So in 6 minutes and 40 seconds, the whole presentation is done. And what's come out of this is kind of interesting. This is a worldwide kind of phenomenon. And before all the COVID stuff happened, they were almost like karaoke parties, but they were PechaKucha parties where people would go to a bar or wherever and put up their PechaKucha on the screen, and 6 minutes and 40 seconds later it was over. It's kind of like, it was like a kind of a mini TED Talk with cocktails, which is not so bad. So we'll get to PechaKucha later in the semester. There's it's actually a pretty simple process. We have some rubrics here. Here's a rubric about the infographics. Here's one about the life review, one about PechaKucha. You're going to do a proposal and a final PechaKucha. You won't have to present these in class. We're going to ask you to create a narrated PowerPoint and put it into the Dropbox. And then the discussion board and the rubrics there. So all of these I highly recommend you get to know pretty well, because that's just how you're going to be successful in this class. And we're really more interested in what you learn than how you do, frankly. But if you learn a lot, you're going to do just fine. And this class is not a difficult class. Pay attention to what's going on, and you'll be fine. Let's go back. I want to take a look at the discussion board for a minute, this rubric. Let's download it. Okay, so I'm sorry there's all these words here, but I'll give you the kind of a synopsis of it. So we're going to do 5 of these. I'll show you the gradebook next, over the course of a semester. And each one will be covering 2 or 3 chapters of our text, plus the other materials that come along with that. We've given you a lot of different ideas about each of these topics and TED Talks and other videos and so forth like that. Sometimes some written stuff, sometimes some interactive tools online. And so what we're going to ask you to do when you write your reflection is to find 2 outside resources that are related to your topic. If we're talking about retirement, there's plenty of outside resources, and I want you to cite these resources. And one of the outside resources I'd like you to put in there is a discussion with an older adult. So if you're talking about retirement, you should identify an older adult who may be retired or is getting close to it, and ask them to what their take is. You can say something like, "All right, we're talking about retirement this week, and so how do you feel about that?" Or however you want to frame your question, and then just put that information in what you're writing, and then as a way to cite this, just put personal communication and a name, not a whole name, just a first initial, and or it could be just initials, I don't care. And then, so that'll be the 2 references that you'll put in each of your reflections. The other thing is, after you've, and maybe I'll hold off until we get into, I think I will, until we get into the discussion board. Let me close this up. So you can look at this rubric and it's pretty clear. It's just busy on a small screen like you've got in front of you. Here's the grade book. And the grade book is, we've got 5 reflections, each worth 100 points. So that's half the course in terms of value. Week 1, this week, we're going to ask you to talk about yourself. It's a kind of a softball reflection, and if you do it, you're going to get full points. If you don't do it, you'll get a 0 or full points, one or the other.
So for this first week, are we to have 2 references?
No, because you're talking about yourself. So you could use your mom and your dad as references if you wanted to, but I would say no, you don't have to have any references, but the next 5 you will.
Okay.
Does that answer it?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks for asking. There is a quiz in here, and I'll show you about the quiz in a second. And then, so we have these the reflections, and then we have the life review. So you're going to do your proposal for the life review. You're going to plan this out ahead of time instead of just putting pen to paper. And then you're going to put a final submission in, and the rubrics are in there. Same goes for the Pechacucha proposal, and you're going to end up picking out a particular topic that may be of interest to you in the field of aging. And I'm going to let Jackie talk more about content in a bit. And then finally, the final assignment, and again, these 2 worth 150 points. A 3-2-1 evaluation is part of the reflections, and it's another softball one. So we're going to ask you to, at the end of the course, to kind of give us the 3 most important takeaways you got from the course. and 2 refers to 2 things that you may have seen in the course that you'd like to know more about, and 1 refers to something you may have seen in the course that doesn't relate or doesn't seem relevant to you. And we use this information to literally create the next semester's course. So this course in great part is a result of thousands of students who've come before you that have guided us in terms of what's important. Because if it's not important, you're not going to learn very much. And then the participation piece is really all of these infographics. There's 8 of them. They're each worth 10 points, so they're low stakes. And Jackie and I are going to reserve the last 20 points on a subjective basis. Come into class is probably part of that, big part of that. And there is actually an extra credit assignment already available to you, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can do that. It stays open until, I think we set it up for September 4th, so you got a little time. It's not going to take very long to do. And that's pretty much the way the course is laid out, and theoretically all that adds up to 1,000 points. Where are you going to find everything in the course is in the discussion board. And different professors put things in different places in Beachboard all the time. So our approach is that we put everything in the discussion board and minimize the amount of navigation you have to do running around the course and so forth. So the first forum in here is this one called Ask and Answered. It's like if you have a question about Beachboard or you have a general question about the course, then please just post a comment there. We monitor this pretty closely and we'll answer it. Odds are pretty good if you have a question of that nature, somebody else in the class does. So I recommend that you all kind of take a look and see the questions that do come in and our answers. And if you see one that comes in and we haven't answered it yet, and you know the answer, please feel free to help out your fellow student. Week 1, everything is structured the same way each week. So there's an overview of what we're going to do. There's the objectives that we're going to try to achieve for each week. These are the materials that you've got. And Jackie has created some videos about each of the modules. They're short. Watch them. Watch this first, as it says, and you'll get an idea about what's coming for this particular week. And we're doing the orientation session, and there's a couple videos here that are pretty good. I'm going to get rid of Flipgrid. We're going to use it. I'm not going to. It's just too much tech for in one time. And then the assessments are reflection for week 1. And so today is the first day of our class. So it's a Thursday, 8 o'clock in the morning. We start each week for this class, and the class will end on Wednesday nights at 11 o'clock. So that's the cycle. In the past, I've done Monday and end on Sunday, but everybody complained they had to work on the weekends. So I moved, we can have this class start any day of the week. And so this is a Wednesday or Thursday to Wednesday night class. And so what I'm going to ask you to do for this, like each of these reflections, is a couple days before, the 31st is going to be Saturday at 11 o'clock. I'd like you to have your reflection done and then reply to another student a couple days later on the 2nd in the same forum down here, same topic area. So you'll post your reflection. Somebody will respond to you. When you respond, find somebody who's not already had a response. And then I'd like you to take a look at their response and reply back to them. So we kind of enlarge the conversation about whatever it is. And I think you're going to find in this first one that, some common interest. So you're going to look through there and find somebody who has the same, maybe it's hiking or whatever it is, and you can talk a little bit about that. And then as we get deeper into the course and the content, you'll be able to continue the conversation and deepen it, because we're going to let your conversations sort of inform how we work the sessions where we see you again in Zoom. And we're going to take all of that information and go on a dive to learn more about it and get some ideas. And we get a lot of good ideas from your experiences and your thoughts about this. Any questions about that? So the dates are, the due dates are here. That's all in the same reflection prompt. Sometimes you're going to be late. I know that. This is tough to do because we're not here to kind of beat you over the head every day and tell you, oh, you got to do this. So a lot of the learning becomes more of your responsibility than in a traditional class. And that's probably one of the biggest differences between the two. So the instructor gives up the power of the podium, if you will, and we become kind of tour guides for you to get to understand all this information. So then week 2 goes, and you'll notice in week 1, it tells you to post the reflections here. It's opened this morning at 8 o'clock, and it'll close Wednesday at 11 o'clock. All of our ending times in this class for everything is 11 o'clock at night. I used to do 11:59, and then people's clocks were a little bit off, and then all of a sudden they couldn't get in to do their reflection, and I would get midnight emails. Week 2, we're kind of start to take a look at the demographics of aging. It's a big deal. It's one of the driving forces on our planet. So we have objectives, we have some resources. Again, Jackie's watched his first video. There's a very cool tool, interactive tool on population pyramids that I'd like you can take a look at that, and it might inform you and when you do talk about this particular topic. And so this week, we're going to ask you to do one of those infographics and the due date. You can put references in there if you want in your second slide. It's not a requirement, but you won't do that in a discussion board. You'll do it in a Dropbox. So that's why this discussion board is locked out. Week 3, pretty much the same setup. It's locked, infographic for week 3. Week 4 is when we'll see you guys again. And so all of the prompts are here. There's Jackie's famous video and some more, a couple TED Talks and some other resources for you. And you're going to do a discussion board on chapters 3 and 4 and talk about that. So here it is. Here's the due date for the reflection, response, and reply on this date. Everybody good? Okay. So that's how the course goes throughout the semester. Most of the time, you're going to see this look to it. And I feel like I'm forgetting something, Jackie, but you've got a better memory, so you'll probably get it. So I'm going to turn this over to Jackie to talk a little bit more about the content, unless there's any questions about the structure and design of the course.
No questions? Good? Okay. So Casey, I'm going to have, since I'm not doing the screen sharing, I'll have you do that. But so hello guys, let me introduce myself. So again, I am Jackie Lauder, and Casey and I are the team. My background actually is in aging and aging services. So much like I have a master's like Casey, but I spent my career working in the field of aging. So I started out in the field of aging around social services, and then went into Medicare, education, and ultimately ended up in healthcare. My passion is Medicare, Social Security, Social Security and all policy things. So I've spent a long time working in aging. So have a bit of a background in it and want to be able to have you understand that if you have any questions or there are things that you don't understand, always, always, always reach out. You can reach out by email. We can communicate an email. We can talk on the phone. We can do a Zoom session. I don't want anyone to struggle with a topic or a subject or something that they don't understand. Literally an email away. So always know that. I think that's really important because these are sort of new topics for you, and I'm going to go into that in just a little bit. Two of the things that Casey talked about, but I actually want to really stress is in terms of trying to understand what is due when and what your responsibilities are, is I would always look in the Dropbox and I would always look at the discussion board. Those are the two places you're going to find the dates. If you see a discrepancy, reach out. You know, we do make mistakes. We've looked at this 500 ways to Sunday. But there's always that one little piece hanging out there. So, but those are your two places where, you know, if you're trying to figure out, oh, what do I need to do? Check your Dropbox, check the discussion board. And if this course is not difficult, having said that, as long as you keep up with it and you are learning new things, so that might be the difficult part, you're going to do fine because this course is really about aging, right? And I'm going to ask a question. We'll see if anybody, you know, who can answer this. First question, and the other piece, I think Casey and I, you know, want to let you know is, boy, do we miss seeing you in person. So we had these classes in person. We're sort of like the dog and pony show. Really enjoyed it, and so to not be able to like have some feedback and communicate with you in person is tough. So tough on you, and we miss it. But the first question I have for someone, let's see who can answer that, is who is aging? Who's going to be younger tomorrow than you are today? Who's aging? Who wants to answer? Haley. Who's aging?
I'd say we're all aging.
Excellent. Yeah. So when we talk about aging, we tend to talk about the other, right? It's always those people. You know, what's that line, you know, around aging? And a lot of times people will say, you know, at 65. Okay, you know, Medicare. So 65, you get Medicare, 62, you get Social Security. There are all these, you know, there's a number around retiring, but in fact, we are all aging. There isn't anyone that's going to be younger tomorrow than you are today. So this course really is about you and everyone that you know. Now, some of us are further down the train track in that aging process. You know, obviously, Casey and I, grandparents, people that you know, but you are aging, and this is something that is relevant to you. And again, everyone that you know right now. And if you pay attention to this and start understanding the concepts, no matter what your major is, no matter what your future job is, you're actually going to be ahead of the game because you're going to start to understand, number one, the demographics and the consequences of those demographics and what does it mean in your field. Because all of these have everything that's going on around aging, and we talk about it globally and we talk about it locally, and everything that goes on has an impact. It has an impact on finances, it has an impact on social policy, it has an impact on what may be happening to you around social policy, right? You guys have all heard, you know, that hair on fire, Social Security is going broke. Well, is it? Will you get it? What does that really mean? So these are things that really reflect on who you are and everyone that you know. And these are the kind of subjects and topics that we're going to go over. I don't think there's anything in here that isn't relevant to you. And so paying just that little bit of attention around aging, what is it, who is it, and what's the impact, and what is the impact on you as an individual, and what's the impact in society is actually at the end of the course, you're going to have two things I think that's going to happen. It's going to put you ahead of the game no matter what your field is, because you're going to understand this concept. And then the other piece is the life review. So that person that you interview, every single time we do this, and Casey's going to back me up on this, there's this sort of like, okay, it's an assignment. I'm going to do it. I don't know who to ask. There's all and angst. You're either very anxious about it or you think it's going to be very boring. And every single time, almost 100% of the people say to us, oh my God, that was the best thing I've ever done. I did not understand and I didn't know. So thank you very much. Am I right, Casey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're going to learn so much from that person you interview. And all of a sudden, as the interview goes on, light bulbs will be going off and say, oh, wait, we talked about that a few weeks ago. And here it is. And sort of makes everything we're talking about somewhat authentic rather than theoretical.
Yeah. Yeah. You will be introduced to theory, but you're really going to look at real life. And how does this reflect in terms of real life? So that's, basically what we're going to be doing. I can't stress enough. Don't struggle with a question. Don't worry about, what is it that we really want, or maybe there's something in a topic that you don't understand. Always reach out. Again, email away. I'd much rather have that conversation with you and put it to rest and help you move on so that you can work on your other classes as well, than have you struggle. Does that make sense? So, you guys gonna do that?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, makes it a whole lot easier on you. So, just reach out and we'll help you take care of it. So, any other questions around aging and aging concepts? I think you'll like the course. Everybody, it's the first week. Everybody's just like, you'll be fine. So we'll get through this.
Okay, thank you. So when you do email us, would you do us a favor and let us know what section you're coming from? Because I feel like, you've all heard about Custer's Last Stand. So Jackie and I feel like General Custer because we're outnumbered 100 to 1. And so if you'll let us know what section, then we can get back to you more intelligently and quickly
Yeah.
with the response.
Yeah, we each have multiple sections, and if it takes a while for me to, Casey or I, to try to find you to be able to answer the question, then you're not going to get it as quickly. Also today, I will send out an attachment in an email that I send out that sort of like maps out the course and then maps out, and I have it in bold red. When you communicate with us, please put your section in it. So I'll send that out after this is over. So
okay, and then the last thing I talked about, I'd like to talk about is, and I mentioned an extra credit opportunity, and students always seem to kind of like those. So in the homepage under surveys, if you click on that, there is a student readiness self-assessment. It's going to ask you some questions about your study habits and things like that. It'll tell us and it'll tell you what kinds of things you're doing now that maybe you could adjust a little bit to be more successful. And it also asks some questions about your access to internet and a decent computer and the right software and like that. And so we, obviously all of you have that, but some of the students who may not be present don't. And we'll do whatever we can to assist any student who needs the tools to be able to be successful in the class. And there's a limitation, obviously, on us on how much we can do, but we'll do everything we can because we're really all in this kind of thing together, even though we don't see each other ever. So, take this, and I go through them, kind of compile them, and give you a grade, give you an extra credit, few points, and that may make the difference at the end of the semester between a A and a B. So I think that's about it. Is there any questions that you guys have that we haven't covered?
I have a quick question. So the survey, extra credit survey, it says it's available until September 4th. Is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. Just
Yeah.
want to make sure the due date.
Yeah, and then typically this is, once I set the due date, it automatically populates this information. So the Beach Board does. So yes.
Okay.
So you got plenty of time to do that. It won't take long. It's a 5-10 minute deal. Because you already know all the answers to it.
So
All
I have, before we go, so I'm going to have two people. I'm going to see if they're here taking roll. So Tiara Hale, are you here? No. And then Gabriel Orozco. Okay. And then, Andrew Tripp. No, Andrew. Okay. That's my only three. Gonna take it away, Casey?
Okay, I'm going to invite you all to go back to your lives, and any questions, you know how to find us. We've hopefully given you the information you need, and we look forward to, I'm going to stop the recording.